Okay, I think everything is finally working. So hello everybody, this is Jaime from Evil Warnings, and I'm here with somebody that I kind of wanted to call you something, but I'm not. I was going to call you a virtuoso, guitar virtuoso.
I don't know about that, but I appreciate that.
Or maybe like a very original.
There we go.
Kind of
that
interesting.
I will take that. I will
At
take
least.
that. I will take that.
All right. So, I mean, one of the questions that I wanted to ask you is that there is not that much information about how you joined the band. I think I know that you are from Illinois.
Yes, correct. Yeah.
So, can you tell me how that happened?
Yeah. I was playing in bands. I'm from Central Illinois, but I lived in Chicago, went to college there and everything for years. And I was in several bands there, and a couple of them toured. Not super frequently, but pretty often. And I ran into, or we toured this band, The Locust. That had Gabe Serbian and David Astor that were in Cattle, two of the original members. And
they're back. The Locust.
Yeah, The Locust is back. Yeah, full bore. And so I developed friendships with them, and they were always kind of just half-heartedly kind of saying, "Oh, hey man, you should move out to San Diego and we'll start a rad band." And at the time I was just like, "Nah, I mean that's awesome. It's flattering and everything." But I was like, I'm comfortable, and I like Chicago, and I've been doing the bands there. Was super into that, and then hold on one second, guys. Sorry.
No worries.
So, anyway, so then I took that as like, just like, oh, that was cool, and then, didn't think anything much of it. Well, I'd say 99, like August 99, and then, like all the bands I was in pretty much broke up at the same time, or like so either broke up or stopped playing, but no one ever really talked about we're done. It was more like talk to you sometime maybe, So at that point I was like, oh well, maybe this is an interesting prospect. So I contacted them and was like, oh, I'm thinking of maybe moving out there. And oh, really? And I thought they probably thought they were like, oh, we didn't expect you to actually do this. It was just more of like a friendship, just typical kind of stuff you would say. So I eventually moved out there, and then they
the rest is history.
Sort of. I mean, because I didn't. I originally came in like Cattle at the time was wanting like a second guitar player because Gabe was still playing in the band, and I played with David Astor and Troy, who was a bass player at the time. Like once I learned 3 or 4 of their songs. It was old school Cattle, so it's not like this amazing feat where I learned all these songs on the spot. It was more like, well, that song's 48 seconds, that song's a minute and 10 seconds, and I just learned it and on the spot pretty much, and just I thought I did an okay job, and then I just didn't hear back. So I bugged Dave, the drummer, the original Dave, not Dave McGraw, our drummer now. Bugged him to death. Probably called him like once every day, and then I figured, well, this isn't, I'm getting a cold shoulder here, and then every couple days, and then I let it go a week. I'd try to call him, and just no response. So I was like, well, I don't think I screwed it up that bad. It wasn't like this train wreck, and I was playing with him consistently. And I remember this is in later, on we're talking about this. Like I asked him, well, what was the deal? Why didn't you call me back? And they're like, oh, we thought it took too long. You took too long to learn the songs. I'm like, I learned 4 songs that day, and I know they're short songs. It's not like any great feat like they're these long.
That day?
Yeah, 3 or 4 songs. Yeah, and they're like, oh, yeah, I don't really know. We just never talked about it. I'm like, okay. So, I think I forget. I think they decided, oh, well, we'll give them a second chance or whatever. And I came in and they gave me like a demo, just a practice-based recording of a few more songs, and I learned a couple of those on my own, and then came in for a practice, and there was 4. It was a 5-piece at the time, because it was myself, Gabe, Dave Astor, Travis, and Troy, and just did one of those, and that seemed to work out just fine. And then Gabe Locust at that time was starting to get really active, or a lot more active and doing very well. So he kind of had to make a decision because Locust was going to be touring a bunch. So he chose to be the drummer in Locust and quit Cattle. So I went from being the second guitar player to the only guitar player. So that's kind of how that happened.
Do you think that made you improve, like because I can?
Oh, you have to cover all the bases, kind of thing.
Yeah, kind of, because I see like the way. I mean, I feel that Cattle is kind of like a little bit hard band to get into because it's kind of.
Oh yeah, of course, yeah.
So, and the guitar really covers. You never, especially after years and years and years. Now with the last album, the guitar is covers so much. So maybe I don't know if that maybe helped that you had to kind of.
Well, yeah, I agree with that. I think I came in from like the band I was in previously playing like.
The 7,000 Rats?
There was 7,009 Rats, not necessarily in that band. That at least my role in that, there were 3 guitar players in that band. So my role was pretty much just do the heavy stuff and keep it, like pretty just following everything else. But the other band I was in, Milai, I was one of 2 guitar players in that band that were kind of doing these counterpoint kind of things. Kind of like Bell and I do now, actually. But it was super busy. Like I don't even know if I could play some of the songs now. They're so just all over the place. At the time, I was 22, so it was just like, I can do this all day, So I came from that, and I kind of had that sort of super chaotic, like structural kind of aesthetic, going, and into Cattle, which at the time was like, I felt like I had to pull some of that back because it was, especially when I came in, To Serve Man was being written, or almost completed, writing-wise, and I had to pull back on some of the chaos stuff. I wanted to have a little bit in there, but it's, once again, I was coming in as a new person. It's not my band. It's not my place to put that much of a signature on things right away. So I tried here and there. I think that kind of came to the surface more in later albums, at least my personal sort of style. But like to say, To Serve Man, that's very much like boom by the book.
Yeah, I read an interview that Travis said that he hates that album.
I don't think he hates it like as a whole. I think there's certain,
like maybe
certain elements that could be
production or something.
Yeah, I'm sure there's a combination of things that, like, of any of the ones we have, I think there's like collectively, this one could be the most improved upon, sort of thing. But we were, everyone was super young and inexperienced.
But actually, I have it in my heart, that album, because it's kind of ridiculous to listen to. It's so like for like
2.5 minutes, and then
that's kind of like a little bit like the beauty of it, that is just like so primitive, kind of like not giving a fuck about anything.
Yeah, it's like drum wise, it's just straightforward. There's occasional little kind of differences in the rhythm and stuff like that, but like guitar wise too, it's like a little more dialed back than what I would normally do, because I was like trying to like not be overbearing with what I was doing, and at least, and I joined so late in the game, writing that I didn't really have time to where I could incorporate a lot of that stuff and not feel like it was a half-hearted kind of, or half-assed kind of thing. It wasn't fleshed out yet. So later, like, maybe more on Humanure and definitely Karma and Harvest Floors, were the people who may have heard like Milai or whatever back in the day would go, I can hear that sort of busy kind of OCD kind of guitar playing reflected more in those albums.
Yeah, because I was thinking that I think Cattle is kind of like a fun band to be the guitar player, because even though I don't know, some people call it grindcore, death metal, whatever, blah blah blah, but I think you can just put whatever weird stuff that you want, mostly anything, and it will work. It works, but you can do that in Slayer or whatever.
I think we've been able to. People didn't really know. I mean, people called it's grind or whatever, but we had all those elements that were not necessarily this orthodox, death metal grind, whatever. Yeah. So I think it kind of gave us this freedom to just sort of do whatever we want, and people aren't going to like come and criticize it because it's, they may not like it, but at the same time, it's not going to be like you have to adhere to this certain box to be in. Which is, not something any of us want, but apparently you have to.
Feeding the boxes.
Be this thing. And if you stop being that thing for someone, then you're terrible. So well, fine then.
And the funny thing is that the new album that I've heard some like so reviews or whatever, people complaining about what you just said, I think is more it has like a unity more as a whole piece.
Yeah.
And then people are like, oh, but blah 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 blah.
Yeah,
blah.
if they don't care for like the music or whatever part of it, that's fine. That's your taste. There's nothing wrong with that. But if I do see complaints about it, it's stuff I'm like, come on, that's the most metal thing to complain about. Just total.
Yeah.
Not even like elitism, like,
Yeah.
because I mean that's not even that well thought out to be. It's just more like, so, kind of stuff that it's kind of. If people are free not to like it, that's fine.
Yeah.
That doesn't bother me at all. It's just some of the reasoning is just like pretty eye rolling.
Yeah.
But whatever. That's fine.
That's what it
It is what it is, and if you don't care for it, that's totally cool. That's fine.
So I'm kind of like curious because I'm from Spain, so I've been living in the States 10 years. But I always like to kind of see where you're from and growing up and whatever. So you think that moving from Chicago to San Diego, do you think that shaped you, made you, changed you a little bit because it's such a different
maybe
place?
I mean, I think when people know, like people who've seen where I'm from, and it's not like crazy backwoods. It's the middle of country. It's a farm. It's farmland. Seeing like people I grew up with, their commentary is like, well, how in the world did you get? What are the path that get you where you were at? Like, why you sitting on a couch right now, doing this, or whatever, foreign location that's cool that we have the sort of privilege to be able to go to. And the answer is I don't know. I think I was always interested in music from a really young age, and was always turn on the radio in the car, whatever top 40 or whatever was going on to my folks. And I was talking to someone about this the other day, actually. I was fortunate enough, there was one of the little towns that I grew up near. For whatever reason, the guy who ran it, on the magazine rack, there was like, this is probably 85, 84, I don't know. Hit Parader, Rip, this handful of metal magazines. So, I was listening to the radio and I was gravitated towards the hard rock stuff. So I was like, oh, Rats on the cover of Hit Parader, I better buy that, and spend my $2.95 or whatever it was at the time. I got that, and then Rip I got that, and they covered a little more wider range of stuff. It wasn't so much glammy, poppy like Hit Parader. It was more like, they had like, Wingers on the cover. Oh, but here's an article on DRI. Here's an article on Pestilence, Cro-Mags, or whatever. So a lot, heavier music. So I got into those articles, started reading that stuff, and then there was a college town 35 miles away from the house, from where I grew up. And they, of course, at that time period had those cool college town record stores. So we would go on the weekends, maybe go to grocery shopping or whatever. And so as I got a little older, maybe early teens, I would beg my mom, like, oh, could you drop me off at so-and-so and, come back in like an hour, go shopping, and, and I'd go to this record store. So I remember the first time I went in there, it was called Record Swap, and it still exists. It's not in the original location, unfortunately. It's kind of, due to the way the industry has gone, kind of downsized a bit and had become a little more niche-oriented. But I remember just opening the door, and it was upstairs, and it smelled weird, and by that I mean like incense or something like that. At the time, I didn't know what it was. And then both sides of this stairway were just covered in graffiti and like flyers with bassist wanted with like the little tag pulled away, and just all these crazy band names I'd never heard of and stuff. And I heard music coming from upstairs, so I was like, oh, are there college students up there? They're strange. So I just went upstairs, and there was cats all over the place laying on the records, and the staff was kind of friendly enough, but still record kind of staff, and playing all this nutso music, which at the time was probably like Butthole Surfers or something like that. And I just went, and whoever was their buyer for metal and alternative, which at the time what it was called, which meant at that time, I think there was a little more like broken up into sections. So it was like like a punk hardcore, and then new wave and goth or whatever. Each had their own section, and it was just really well curated. So I would be able to go up there and find these relatively obscure underground recordings for whatever genre right there. So go from the farm to get like oh, here's this I don't know, there's like super small metal label bands like Death Wish or like I don't know, Last Crack or anything like that. Just sort of like less more obscure stuff, and me just like reading reviews in these magazines, or just look the typical. I looked at the cover. And it looked brutal. You know, the thought process.
I used to buy just flip albums.
Yeah, it's like, this is
Roadrunner.
sick. And Blood Feast, Kill for Pleasure, organize that. You know.
I remember getting the first Down album. Just because it was Phil Anselmo. I didn't know anything about Crowbar, nothing.
Yeah, the other
Phil Anselmo, whatever. And back then I already liked Sabbath, that stuff. But I was just like, fuck.
Yeah. Yeah, so I would buy that stuff, and then they also carried all the metal, like Metal Forces, Metal Hammer, but they also carried like Flipside, Maximum Rock and Roll, and
Did you ever hear about this Italian magazine, Grindstone?
No, I haven't heard that.
Because my story is kind of similar to yours. I used to go to this little kiosco in Spain, you know, buy the magazines.
Yeah.
And there was this old lady, like, I don't know, 60, 70 something. And one day I went there and they had this magazine, it's called Grind Song. And it's all brutal death, black metal, and it's like, and I just bought it.
Oh yeah.
I had no idea.
That's like candy. You're just like, give me.
Yeah, but I did.
But no idea of what.
Yeah,
the
because
contents.
To me, I had heard Sepultura a few years before, and I was like, "What is this? Screaming! This is wow!"
Yeah.
No. And Metallica was a little bit too heavy.
Yeah.
So anyway, and I started reading all that stuff, and then there was a record store in Madrid, 3 hours and a half from where I live. So every time my parents went there, they would drop me. It's called Repulse Records.
Oh yeah.
Have you heard of Repulse Records?
Yep.
Avulset. I can't pronounce the band. Dave Rotten, the guy from Avulst.
Avulst. Yeah, Avulst. Yeah.
So that was his store.
Oh, okay.
The store doesn't exist, but it was back then. Early Incantation stuff, cassettes. They had candles inside. The first time I went, like, fuck, I'm gonna get killed here.
Yeah,
what
I know.
Is this?
Yeah,
what is this?
Kind of the same thing.
And then I signed up for their catalog, and I would get like dismember reviews, blah blah blah, and I would just order based on whatever. And it's like,
I'd look at these little ads in the back of these magazines I always get that was like almost like became like, here's the sketchiest little like, piece of garbage, like 1/8 of a page ad. It looks like someone scrawled it on their notebook.
Yeah.
Looks brutal. Order that. You know, your success rate was middling at best, but some of the stuff was great.
Yeah, it's funny because at that time, I mean, not to complain about music now, but you know, like early 90s, whatever, the level was pretty. Most things that you could buy with metal or death metal or stuff like that were like pretty solid. I think.
They weren't like completely thrown together. You know, it was like even if it was a demo, there was like a lot of care put into the. You know, it may have been sort of DIY, but the production of the actual, cassette and the insert and everything like that. And I was fortunate to have that. And then I went to college in Chicago. And then, of course, it's, what do you want? When do you want it? You know, it was like a candy store. So it was like, here's, there was a store called Metal Haven there that was just metal. But the guy that ran it, just an encyclopedia of the genre. So the best of the best in every little, every sort of, the most thin slice subgenre of under the umbrella, he would have like the best of that, and always meticulous. And Reckless Records, there was a few of those locations, and all these places that had just the big city resources, and that sort of depth of knowledge where there's people that could make their, I don't say their career, but like that was their thing. Is like, I'm a buyer for this, and I have deep knowledge of all these genres. So I really was kind of coming from a place that shouldn't have had access to this stuff, or you wouldn't think. I was kind of spoiled as in being right place, right time, and kind of having this thirst to find the music and just go and spend my, I worked. My brother and I basically were sort of family employees. Our farm. You grew up on a farm. There's so much stuff to do. So my dad would pay us, whatever. I think whatever minimum wage is at the time, and we'd both earn that, and we could save it or spend it. And they always try to convince us, no matter how long we've been saving it, that don't you want to save it for something special? I'm like, well, this is something special. I worked all summer. I'm 12 and I'm basically have a full-time job. So and I would just spend it on like music. And I did get my first guitar when I was like 12, maybe something like that. Oh wow. 13 maybe, I don't know. So then after that it was like gear, even though I hadn't the foggiest idea of what I was doing. It's like, that looks cool. That is like the prime time for the impressionable to be influenced, you know, kind of purchase, you know, but it's just ignorance mixed with admiring someone or some whatever you grasp onto, you know. So I don't know, but that's kind of what exposed me to everything and got me into what was the next most extreme thing, because it was, you know, radio rock first and hard rock, Van Halen and Twisted Sister and all that, and then there was the obvious Metallica, the big four kind of stuff, and then it was, okay, what's the next thing? What's the what's this other stuff? You know, I heard the Melvins and Napalm Death at the same time, like the same evening, the first time for both those bands. There was a local, like, not for profit public radio station in the college town, and you know, you take this little course to operate the board and like a competency test, and then you could have a show if you pitched it to them and they accepted it. Well, this guy I later became friends with had a 2-hour show. The first hour was all like punk hardcore, and the second hour was all like mostly like the Earache era, you know, Carcass Entombed,
Bolt
you know,
Thrower,
Filthy Christian,
whatever.
Bolt Thrower, and whatever else he would get. So that, and you know, early Century Media and all that, of course, Metal Blade stuff, and you know, like Relapse. Well, actually, that might have been just prior to Relapse being formed, but so I had those two things colliding. So he just is like, oh, I'm gonna. He played like some Melvins, and I was like, oh, this is crazy, you know. And then he's like, oh, let me switch some speeds. I want to go from super slow to super fast. He put on Napalm Death, and I was like, my mind was blown by both of them for, you know, different reasons. So that was a great exposure to, you know, both sludgy, heavy music and then just blisteringly fast, frantic grind, you know, at 15 years old or whatever it was, or 14 actually, maybe. Yeah. So I was thankful to have all those elements, and I think it was just a time and place thing, because you know, it's not like he was this long running DJ there with a tradition. He was a college student, so he was probably in and out, you know, in a couple of years, and I just happened to be listening at the time, and for whatever reason tuned in, because why would you ever think he would hear that on the radio? I think there was a flyer probably in that record store I mentioned that said, oh, you know, metal, grind, punk, hard, whatever, you know, there's my 2-hour show, and I'd like, oh, 90.1 FM, cool, I'll check that out, and we could barely get it from my house, because it wasn't the strongest signal, so it's like, have to like put my boom box and put the antenna half out the side of the window, you know, wrap it in tinfoil, whatever, you know, weirdo, you know, solutions to reception that didn't really work, but and then I get it, or like hold the radio at this angle, you know, for how long, and then I tape the shows so I could go back and like go, oh, this band was great, and I want to look for their record and all that stuff. So I was just fortunate to have all these things kind of come together at the same time, and then give me, you know, the ability, if I chose to do so, to pursue hearing more of that stuff, or a life that kind of was impacted by having those bands and the interest in the music.
And any band, like your favorite, or your, not your favorite, like the one that you, if there is any band that you're kind of like obsessed.
Oh, I don't know about, okay, here, I can give you
because I heard that Travis is obsessed with Bethlehem.
Yeah, Bethlehem's one of his big, I can go like, and this is actually from back in the day, like it's, you know, obviously since then I've kind of like not evolved out of these bands, I still love these bands, but just like, you know, your taste kind of broadened and everything, but I think from back in the day, stuff that I really like kept coming back to, I mean, I listened to like, this is totally stupid, I had one of those boom boxes with like the equalizer on it, the detachable speakers that were popular at the time, so, you know, it ran on like 6D batteries that would,
I just saw a guy going to the train station.
This thing weighs forever, I mean, it weighs a ton.
I think he was playing Too Short or something
like
that.
Yeah, and it cost a ton to like put the batteries in and stuff like that. So I'd get my school bag and I would like, you know, have the batteries, take the speakers off, of course, but just listen to headphones, this dual cassette thing that was like this block, and stuff it in my bag, and just go to school listening to tapes, you know, because we were kind of, I rode the bus and we were kind of far from school, so it'd be on there for like a little over an hour every morning, so I just get to listen to, you know, destroy my hearing from a really early age, listen to like all the crap I bought, you know, at the record store. So, I mean, I remember being obsessed with Garage Days Revisited.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, and listen to that I don't know how many times, like over and over. And kids, you know, I had it up so loud that you could hear it, you know, like, you're going to destroy your hearing. And, you know, of course they're right, but, you know, I listened to that over and over. But I can name 3 albums during that time period that really, I think, kind of affected me. Nothing Face from Voivod.
Oh, okay.
I listen to that all the time. His Piggy's guitar playing is like, you know, probably an unconscious influence, because
I don't want to say anything because I've been trying to get into Voivod.
It just doesn't resonate.
It never grabbed me, and I've tried, and it's like, yeah, they're good, and it's cool, but still,
there's something it just doesn't quite click.
Yeah, something that doesn't make me. I don't know if it's maybe the productions. I was thinking maybe about getting those new remaster versions that maybe
beefs it up or makes it a little more hot in the hot signal or whatever.
But yeah, it's one of those.
Yeah. I remember seeing an ad for it. It was like, I'm thinking on like a subsidiary of MCA, like Mechanic or something like that. And yeah, Nothing Face, and then Consuming Impulse. Actually, the first two, Malleus Maleficarum and Consuming Impulse. But Consuming Impulse, more so because the songs are a little more compact. They were just, this sort of proto-death metal, late thrash, but Martin Van Drunen was singing, so it was his style. It was so just tortured and hoarse. But I still say the guitar tone on those records is some of my favorite heavy guitar tone ever. Just super ripping and angry and aggressive. It wasn't super sludgy and tuned down a ton. It was maybe D standard or half a step down, but it was just angry sounding, and that's what I try to probably subconsciously model what I do after. If I'm successful or not. That's what really struck me. And then they've been broken up forever, but Holy Terror from Encino originally. But they had Mind Wars and Terror and Submission that I still to this day listen to, not all the time, but pretty frequently for albums that have been out since like 89, 88 or whatever. 87 I think it was Terror and Submission. But those are so underrated. I think they deserve to be up there with like Dark Angel and Death, and just in that sort of tier. But for whatever reason, I don't know, because they only did those two albums and they broke up, but the Terror and Submission and Mind Wars I think are great and highly underrated and super brutal.
There is a lot of music out there.
Yeah, I mean, it's like the vocal style was a little more thrashy, but like musically it was just like so ripping. I love those records. Yeah. And another thing for people of my age, Cliff 'Em All, of course, and then Ultimate Revenge 2.
Which one?
Ultimate Revenge 2. Okay. There was the Ultimate Revenge 1 that had like Venom, Exodus, and Slayer on it.
Oh, it's a compilation?
Yeah, it was like a VHS kind of thing. The second one was Forbidden, another great record, Forbidden Evil. Forbidden, Faith or Fear, Death, Dark Angel, and Raven. I still have the original VHS cassette, and I probably watched that like every day when I got home from school, to where my mom was just like, please turn this garbage off. And I'm all just like, the burning of Sodom, sitting there in our living room, the one TV in the house, and having the VCR control and the two different controllers and the volume control and the TV. Do you
have a Betamax? Beta?
No, we didn't have a Beta. Like, we got a VCR really late, or a VHS, whatever, really late, because my parents were holding out. They're like, I don't know, that's just a flash in the pan kind of thing. And it's like watching movies, So we got everything late, because which, at the end of the day, okay, fine, who cares? But like VHS was late. We got, it's kind of funny, because when Atari was the big thing, we got an Atari, but only after Nintendo had come out, because it had gotten cheap enough to we were like, I guess, And then to get an 8-bit Nintendo, my brother and I like saved a bunch of money and put it together, and then purchased it, with one another. So I don't know. Sorry, that was long-winded.
No.
Continue.
Everything interesting.
Yeah. Okay.
That's what I do. I never really follow my questions.
Oh, as long as you end up where we end up. Yeah.
A bunch of things that they weren't written here. So, I just wanted to talk about something that I think is kind of interesting between the Primitive Man guys and you. Like, I mean, their album came out like a couple of years ago. Yours is new, but it's kind of like both sides of the same issue. Like, Death Atlas is more like a global state of like disgust or like, I don't know, whatever you want to call it, with the world. But then their album is very inside. It's like the misery inside your bedroom. So they're the opposite. One is very
universal,
obvious.
Global. The other is like this internal struggle kind of thing.
I don't know. Have you heard their album? Well, you've seen them live.
Oh yeah. So I'm like, in addition to just this tour, seen them around and stuff. So I think they're one of the most suffocatingly intense bands. And people usually in heavy music think of intense as just like, that means blast beats and whatever. So obviously they have occasion where they go into like or more blasty sort of stuff, but it's just that enveloping heaviness and just atmosphere. They do that sort of hopeless kind of atmosphere almost better than anyone, and it's just, of course, live experience is so just insanely over the top sound pressure wise. It's that just drives it home.
Yeah.
So it's definitely for people wanting a both, you know, listening and a physical experience. That's what you're gonna get, you know.
So with the new album, like, so I mean, the state of the world is kind of
we're having a time right now.
Yeah, 50-50, I don't know.
Yeah, we'll see where we're at.
40 or whatever.
Yeah.
So was something that happened that maybe influenced more, like something that made you guys think a little bit more and like, oh, maybe we should...
like this type of theme for the album.
Maybe just focus on something more specific in all the songs, even though most albums, I think they kind of have
there's like a mindset for each band, like this is where we're kind of going, like, or here's what the state of, you know, affairs are, and they'll kind of, it may not be a concept album proper, but they'll kind of have a general theme. And well, if you look at like the lyrics on Death Atlas, not the song itself, but like overall, it does deviate from that. There's certain things that are more like, I'm sure Travis, like, they're more personal to him that aren't like necessarily these grand statements. I think if you look at it from beginning to end musically, and, you know, here's kind of the theme based on the artwork and some of the lyrics, you know, Geocide, the song Death Atlas, you know, all Times Cool Curtain, it's all this sort of, you know, very sort of melancholy foreshadowing, and, you know, Anthropocene was what it was. Mankind is extinct. Now this is the post, and there's a lot of, I think, lyrical content that's like, here's the story of how we ended up here, you know, so it both, like, conceptually continues after Anthropocene, but it's not a direct, like, boom, 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 I have to... He didn't have to leave off begin exactly where Anthro left off. There's a little more abstract and universally applicable lyrics on this, you know, that aren't just this story thing. But because of the way the music is and the way the album's laid out, it becomes like a big piece on its own, like a cinematic kind of thing. I think. I mean, maybe others would disagree, but I think just the way we ordered the song and constructed the album, it really lends itself to like listening to it all in one piece. Which I know no one has any attention span anymore, so I understand if they don't, but it works better that way. It works better. It's like if you're going on a car trip, or, you know, you just like have a long commute to work, or, you know, you're painting a bedroom or something, you know, like that. Put it on and be able to have the whole thing, and, you know, kind of pay attention to it, or doing whatever level you enjoy music at.
It really goes fast when you listen to it. I realize, and it's like, this is just like 3 more, and
because I think people paid too much. If we didn't have an actual runtime on it, like, you know, we have X amount of, you know, 58 minutes or 55 minutes of music or whatever. If there was no, like, publicized runtime, or people didn't, you know, that wasn't out there, I think people wouldn't really notice that it was that long. Because to me, at least, it's dynamic enough, and there's enough stuff going on, and it's this, you know, movement to where you're not sitting there going, oof, we're about done, you know. Or
the songs are like, they have so much, I think, and I love that some people have complained, like the more kind of like black metal riffs. I think they work really well with those parts that kind of like explode, and it's this open, like,
just this big, you know, just buzzsaw chords, like, you know, where it's this expansive thing, and it's not like, you know, all the time. It does have that, but it's got it just opens up. That's why I kind of like, once again, it's like, if people don't care for it, that's fine, but to say it's like not dynamic, or it's all the same, or rehashed riffs, I'm like, I mean, I was one of the writers on it. I'm trying to think, like, okay, what did we rehash? What did it come from? Like, from another album, or, you know, stealing riffs from earlier in the record, or whatever. You know, I think maybe there's, maybe I'm misreading it. You know, it's not necessarily, I take that literally, like, did they steal a riff from an earlier album or something like that, or whatever. I'm like, no, it's like there's certain moods and themes that throughout the course of this individual record we tried to keep, you know, consistent, dynamic, you know, not, you know, repeating the same thing, but maybe that's what it is. You know, I think someone said, like, oh, there's a riff on, I forget what song, it sounds exactly like this riff from another album, and so I was like, oh, okay, well, maybe they're, you know, maybe I'll John Fogerty and I'm stealing from myself, so, like, no offense to Mr. Fogerty, but
Oasis, stealing.
Yeah, but they those mofos can write some songs. I know. Oh, no, I know. But I was just like, I know that's, you know,
they can rehearse the four.
Exactly. They're like AC/DC. They can, you know, what was the Angus Young quote? He's like, someone accused us of having 10 albums that sound exactly the same. That is completely false. We have 12 albums that sound exactly the same. You know? But I think they were saying, like, oh, this chunky part sounds exactly like something from this other album. And I listened to it. I'm like, I mean, I guess I can say that, but if you're gonna knock us for that, then most other bands' songs are all identical. Then that's gonna be the tipping point, or like the sort of the knock. So
there are some. I don't know. I think you can't really escape that if you're trying to do some kind of like a slam kind of riffing, like
exactly.
The pattern, the way you do it, is not the same notes, but you're gonna do the
like people ding Suffocation for the masters of that of the non-hardcore slam riff. Do they ding them for, or Fetus, too, for like, I heard that on the last album. I mean, that's like their stylistic sort of thing, It's like I understand, it's like you don't want to plagiarize yourself. You don't want to be stale and just have like, well, it worked once, let's beat it to the ground and stuff like that. But
I think like maybe people, because I play not at this level, but it's kind of like people that don't really know, because it's so hard when you listen, especially like the music that you guys play. Heavy metal is such a demanding.
I think both. I mean, depending on what style you play, like technically, physically, whatever, demanding, but also whatever you put upon yourself, whatever you believe you need to enact in order to, accurately kind of sort of execute your vision. But then I think both that and the listeners, they have extremely high standards too. And within that, some people may be super picky and want to hear, this meticulously edited, perfection, or sloppily edited perfection, or just whatever, just some, whatever they get out of it, whereas other people want loose, like a little more rock and roll kind of stuff, and other people don't mind just sort of buzzsaw, like black metal riffing and all that. And I think in our band especially too, everyone has different tastes, it's all, we all like heavy music or whatever, but I mean, there's some people that like the super, I don't want to say sterile, not as it's an offensive thing, but like super clinical tech death. They like that stuff. And then there's other stuff, like I like black metal that sounds like it's almost ready to fall apart at any given time. Just the tastes are all over the place. So I think you can kind of hear that. And we try to, have we try to incorporate those things and execute it as best as we possibly can. So where it's tight, but it's not, tight. I mean, it's to the grid, obviously. It's all done to a click, but it's not, this just sterile thing.
And Dave's drumming.
Oh, he's ridiculous. Yeah. That's the thing. It's like almost, so I did see one person that it was, they complained, but it wasn't, they're like, this isn't a complaint, it's just an observation. They're like, at some point in time, it's so over the top at times, just with the velocity and just the kicks and just the intensity. They're like, it seems like it's a little much, but then you look at the whole album and you're like, no, it's what it's supposed to do.
Yeah, it's like a train wreck kind of.
Yes, it's so just up, but he's, and the thing is when he recorded that, I mean, like I remember Dave Otero, when we did that, we had a little break and stuff, and our Dave McGraw was still in the room he was recording in, and Otero turned around and like goes, he is killing this. I mean, he is. There's some stuff I'm gonna have to go fiddle with, but he goes, dude, his performance is great, his fills are awesome. He goes, you should be happy. He's like saving you guys a lot of time. He's just going right through this. Yeah, he did a great job on the record,
So you guys, do you all live in San Diego kind of area?
Myself, Bell, and Travis do. Dave lives in Seattle, and Oli lives in Montreal.
Okay.
Yeah, so he kind of commutes to work.
Okay, so you just meet when you have some exchange ideas, whatever?
Yeah, well, like for writing this time, because Dave was in Seattle, so we had to kind of like get riffs together and send them. Our little whatever recording programs that we barely know how to use. Me especially, and send it to Dave, and he yay and nay and said, oh, number 3's a keeper or whatever. And then Oli came in the band late enough to where he kind of wasn't able, unfortunately, to have a lot of input, so he just learned the songs like overnight seemingly, and then came in and re-recorded them. So
does he still play Cryptopsy?
Yes, he's still he's still in Cryptopsy. Yeah, so it's a busy schedule for that guy. But it's what he wants to do. He wants to be on the road. He wants to play as much as possible. And he does a great...
He's pretty good at it.
Oh, he's amazing, dude. He's the best. He's such a good guy to have around. I mean, aside from his bass playing and stage presence, which is great, what we've always wanted, it's great. He's a good fellow to have around, so we're really happy to have him.
Do you guys feel that San Diego is changing? Are you guys trying to escape?
Oh, as like as people get older, like they kind of like.
They're kind of like, I've been hearing a lot of people, you know, like how California gets, it's so expensive. I've heard a lot of people kind of trying to go to Nevada to buy a house.
Yes, or Phoenix or whatever. Or, yeah. As a city, I like San Diego. Of course, I don't like the housing prices, or just for rent or whatever. I don't own a home, but I don't know. I find it. I have a very, and I don't know how much of it I can attribute to how I was raised or whatever, or just living there for so long. It's a very Midwestern outlook on things, whatever that means. People can read into that where they're, depending on where the country is, and what stereotype they want to put on that. They might be right. They probably won't. But at the same time, like I've met some of my best friends in San Diego. They're just wonderful people, you know. So although I'm annoyed usually at 2/3 of the 85% of the populace there, they're the keepers that make it worthwhile. That are just wonderful people that like I'm so glad that I have in my life. You know, just really good people. So I don't know.
Have you learned Spanish? Anything?
Oh, dude, I took 4 years in high school and I was, well, sorry, Miss Glasgow, no offense, I was thankful I took 4 years of it in high school because when I was in college, that basically got me out of having to take it there and have to really know what I was doing. So I was like, boom, got out of that. So I think I have a really rudimentary, very rudimentary knowledge of Spanish, like taco shop Spanish we call it, just enough to get the point across or really offend someone, you know, accidentally. So yeah, that's kind of the level I'm at. But I don't know. San Diego's it's comfortable. I really miss Chicago as a city. I love it.
Never been.
I love it to death. I don't know. We'll see where things take me, or whatever. Not just me, but you know, like Travis was even talking because his wife's grandparents had a place in Vegas, and for a while, they were getting to the point in their lives where they needed like assisted living and stuff. So this house was going to be vacant, and I think it was in like the family trust or some sort of like familial kind of control. And for this week-long period, it was like, oh crap, maybe we'll move to Vegas. You know, it's our chance to own a home, and maybe we can sell it in a few years and come back to San Diego and all that. And it didn't end up working out that way, but that was a possibility. Dave was in San Diego for years, but his first love for cities in the U.S. is Seattle, so he wanted to be back there. Bell is from San Diego. I mean, I haven't really talked to him about it, but I think he has a definite love for that city. And Ollie lives in Montreal. I'm kind of the odd one out as far as like living in two major cities and then a farm growing up. But also my parents and grandparents had a place where my parents live there now in Wisconsin on an island, and I love that too. So I have 3 places I really like. Where I grew up is fine. It's kind of the least desirable of the 4, but I could now, it's just as a band person with the internet and recording mobily and stuff, you can kind of live anywhere as long as you are willing to accept the extra sort of pain that it is to maybe get to the closest airport or whatever wherever you're meeting up at.
And in a way, kind of like when I've played in bands, kind of it's even more convenient to exchange ideas when you have solid stuff meet, because you end up, at least what happened to me, my experience, you go and you start, it's cool to jam stuff,
of
ideas,
course.
but then you start like fucking around. Somebody brings their phone, hey, did you see this, whatever,
2 hours later you haven't done anything. If
nothing.
you can get your ideas down, send them, and then there's like, well, here's something to work on when we get together. So maybe because, especially our instance and other bands, it's like, well, this time is precious because he lives there, so and so ever has whatever going on in their life, that you can be like, all right, we have to make this count. So maybe there is that sort of like, you go in and you're just a little more disciplined instead of like, we all live 2 miles from here or whatever.
You live in the same area of
No, Belle lives in Ocean Beach.
Oh, okay.
Travis lives in Imperial Beach, which is south.
Oh, it's
really,
the south end.
Really close to Mexico. He can stand like this little ridge in his yard and look up, and there's Tijuana down there. And I live downtown by like just like a train station and the art museum, and the financial district is right. The financial district of San Diego is right there. So
I like San Diego a lot.
It's
smaller than
it's
LA.
It's like vacation LA, but without having all the LA-isms aside from the traffic. Yeah.
All right. So let me see, because I think kind of more or less.
Yeah. If you got anything else, I'm more than happy to do it.
Well, just because you guys Me Too, and many other people care about the environment and try to recycle or do little things. And for example, now me and my wife, we are buying toothpaste that you can recycle the tube. These little balls to wash your clothes, so you don't get the plastic containers, little things. So what do you think that people, all this backlash with Greta Thunberg?
Oh, like people responding to her and being like,
oh, she has autism, whatever, she's this crazy girl, all this bullshit that people are talking about.
I mean, one, I think it's pretty... No matter what you believe, she's a 16-year-old girl, an autistic 16-year-old girl, fairly well-spoken, all things considered, and I think it's like this sort of politicized, regardless of what degree or not you have any, climate issues or think are, currently sort of being experienced. I don't see how this necessarily, like, if someone's got a gun to your head all of a sudden, oh, are you left or right wing? No, it's, so I guess there's people that, there's to believe that, it's a hoax, that Earth goes through natural, and this part is true, goes through natural heating and cooling just over its life cycle, which I think everyone agrees on. But probably there's people that do not. But then also there's what's this effect humanity's having. And yet no one's saying that like humanity is causing or maybe they are, every aspect of this, but it's exacerbating what already pre-exists. So it's elevating things to a dangerous level, It's not saying like, oh, because we have this thing that's a man-made or created thing, this is the only reason this is happening. There's certain aspects I think that's true. Maybe certain animal extinctions are like, well...
Like why don't you start doing something to improve?
Oh yeah, even
though you don't see it directly.
Yeah, you may see it like this, like total, like total 11th hour terrible thing. You think it'd be like, oh, it's like almost like if you have any sort of sympathy towards that, then you automatically are all in this extremist towards that, and that puts you in this category, which is repulsive to your political predisposition or convictions. Like no one wants to be in that box, or something like that, or seen on that side of the fence, So it's everything's so you're either A or B, and anything in the middle is like you're some coward that doesn't know how to commit to something. It's like, well, if it was that simple, P would, it's like there's all these gray areas, and I don't know. I mean, at some point in time, you have to choose A or B, in things in certain things in life.
Sadly, yes.
Sadly, I know you have to, but I don't know. I think it's pretty. Even if you don't believe there's some sort of imminent climate crisis or whatever that's going to affect the world. I mean, you don't care about like even something that's like growing up as also oil spills or something like that, or save the whales kind of stuff. Even that, I mean, no one of course thinks that oil spills are great, but to be like whatever, that's just over exaggerated nonsense. It's like that's just a way to like forget, not think about it, and just go about your day. Everything's cool. It's my sense of reality is consistent, and I can just keep going forward and not have to think about anything. So I think, to a certain degree, there may be some folks that are just like, la-di-da, I don't want to think about it, This is obviously false. Come on, those people are crazy, right? Yeah, they're totally crazy, Yeah, you know what? Some of them probably are. And there's probably some people that are completely, like with anything, not so about stuff, but, I mean, I think there's a lot of really viable, legitimate information in there, and motivations for people to be as concerned as they are about it. It's not necessarily something to be abused by people trying to spur some sort of political action, and make it a partisan thing. I think
it's funny because it's like with the previous album, like the cover with the beach full of plastic and stuff. You've been reading in the news lately, there was this whale that was dead with tons of plastic. So it's like people are looking at this, wow, look at this fantasy. It's not...
Yeah, or exactly. Or it's like, I mean, not that we, had some sort of premonition of a whale, but there was actually, I forget what the name of the movie was. It was like this guy did a documentary about, it was one of the islands in between Hawaii and Japan. And it was one of those things that there was like a trailer on YouTube that I don't know if it was actually ever made it to production, but it was about this guy who was a photographer I think, just photographing seabirds. And he was doing all these photos of these seabirds washing up and then, decaying and just plastic oozing out of them. So it was like his sort of photo project based upon that. And then he was like, oh, this is going to be a movie. So I don't know if it ever actually materialized. But we saw that and we're like, oh my gosh, I had no idea. And I think like the cover where there's the plastic erupting out of it, that was based upon seeing those, photos. So...
and humans with the crap that they give us to eat and whatever chemicals. Well,
especially
they put.
I think. Well, I don't just want to say North America like it's an exclusive thing with us. It's universal. But I don't know. I think everything. I'm just as guilty of it as anyone. Is so based on convenience that like the actual preparation of fresh food is just not. It's. Oh, it's a pain. I don't have time to do that or whatever.
For me, the thing is being from Spain.
Yeah, I'd say being from where you're from, it's probably...
I don't eat McDonald's. I will eat In-N-Out because I don't consider it kind of
I got
fast food because it's more, fresh fries, all that stuff. But I don't... Years ago, I said, I'm not going to take this. And he said, well, whatever. And it's like, see, I know that all that... It's not going to kill me, but I just don't want to give them my money.
Yeah.
That they're poisoning me with these.
Yeah, at the end of the day, it's like it might as well be, it doesn't have to be McDonald's. It could be Shell or Exxon or whatever, any other corporation,
even
Unilever, whatever.
I was reading the Guitar Center sent like one of these...
the mailers or whatever.
Yeah, and he had a paper that said all this equipment, or most or part of this equipment can cause cancer. This thing might have something...
Maybe it's a California corporation, because you'll see... like, how it is, you enter buildings and, it's by law you have to put this placard that says this site has been known to, cancer-causing agents on it and stuff. They don't mention that one person sued and it's like, oh, now you have to put that. But it's not like, maybe if you're eating pounds of the building materials a day or, working for 25 years in a building that has some sort of particulate, excuse me. But then I can see it, But I think of how many, like, places had asbestos that they just had to... Oh, we were there for, there was a building that they were completely redoing in downtown San Diego that's probably done by now, that there was people that were in there for 25 years working in. Oh, yeah, they found asbestos. We didn't know about it. We were in there for 25 years.
Yeah.
Whoops. Yeah. So hopefully that doesn't visit in a way that's not, the classic, class action lawsuit kind of stuff.
Okay. So, I think... most of it is said and done.
Yeah.
Once I leave, I will think about 10 other interesting questions.
Of course, that's all it is. Yeah, of course.
Oh, and the last question, I always ask this because of my wife, because she runs.
Okay.
She always says that it's cheesy to wear the T-shirt of the race that you're running.
Oh yeah, like the previous year or the one you got for free by signing up. Yeah.
Do you think it's cheesy to do the same with the band that you're going to see?
Oh, the band that you're going to see? Well. There we go.
Well, it's not Cattle. So
Okay, that's right.
But I had one.
Yeah, you'll get to catch a couple songs, hopefully. Well, I don't know. I think it's if you're in the band, like it's almost like if you're Def Leppard, you can do that. If you're Metallica, you can do that. For some reason, it's okay for them and in that era, but like now, I think it's like this sort of faux pas. Like, don't wear your own shirt. Unless it's laundry day and you need a shirt.
But the people that go to the show?
Yeah, the people that go to the show. If you...
Yeah.
I don't think that's... for us, it's like, cool, see a lot of, whatever bands. Got a lot of Cattle shirts tonight. Cool, I don't think that's a bad thing.
Have you seen, I think it was... what's his name? The guy from Kiss?
Which, Gene, Paul...
I don't know if it was Gene or Paul. There is this video on the internet. I think it's a guy that comes to do an interview with a T-shirt from another band. The opener band. And they don't let him do it.
Yeah, they banished him.
Shit. They said, you come here with a T-shirt from like whoever, I don't know, but you don't bring a Kiss T-shirt, and they made him change. It's ridiculous.
Gosh, that's like performative to a certain extent. It's like, like they need money from this guy. Yeah, I mean, they already have. I mean.
Even coffins.
Yeah, several $100 million a piece. It's like you could buy and sell most people many times over. It's like, I don't know. That seems kind of absurd.
So I think that's it. Thank you for watching.
Sure.
Thank you for being here with me.
Absolutely.
Vitriol are killing it out there. Maybe I will hear a couple of songs.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Good luck tonight.
Yeah.
And I can't wait to catch the show.
Great.
All right.
We'll do our best. Thank you.
Bye.